Woo! Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, exposing liberals gone wild. Man, when I wrote that, I never dreamed they would have been exposed the way they have in the last month. Woo! I might have to do a sequel to that book. You know, the first one that I did with Exposing Liberals Gone Wild had a color insert with pictorials of liberals gone wild in various states of wildness, and nothing matches those Y-Frog pictures that we've seen. Although I did include a somewhat censored photo of the Berkeley anti-war nuts that go by the moniker breasts not bombs. So this is what they do. Well, I flew into town yesterday, and I can say with absolute certitude that the only angry mobs in Minneapolis this weekend are the ones across the street at that spurned progressive Obama lovers confab. I mean, they are all, what's that phrase, wee-weed up? And literally spitting mad. And believe me, I know about spitting mad liberals. As usual, they're blaming the messengers for their failures, and I'm not just talking about Andrew Breitbart. That was quite a session with the White House flack, Dan Pfeiffer. That guy wishes he had been replaced by an ATM. Of course, this same spurned lover syndrome is spreading to establishment editorial boards, corporate dinosaur TV newsrooms, and the K Street habitats of those George Soros flying monkeys. I love how the whitest of Wonder Bread white liberals accuse me of racism when I use the term monkeys. And of course, this is something that has amused me for years. You know, next year marks my 20th year in newspaper journalism. Yeah. At one point, I was starting to feel old. I celebrated my 40th birthday last year, and I thought, oh man, I'm getting old. But movements like this one have energized me to no end. I mean, this is my political fountain of youth coming to RightOnline every year. And I thank you for that. I was asked yesterday on Radio Row what my message would be for the dejected leftists on the other side of town. And it's the same 5 words that I've been repeating the last couple of years. See, I told you so. I'm sure many of you were in Pittsburgh in 2009. That was the last time I was at RightOnline. Last year I was on my own summer road trip. Thankfully, nobody was following me in an entourage like other prominent conservative women who can't take trips without these boys behind the bus. And in 2009, I was reading you a New York Times teeth-gnashing op-ed from Frank Rich that was titled, "Is Obama punking us?" Yes, he is. He has been. And now, fast forward a couple years later, and we've got Dennis Kucinich ready to don his Bush Miss Me Yet t-shirt. We had a couple of dozen whistleblowers who have just signed an open letter demanding that a prominent good government group rescind Obama's Transparency Award because he never meant it. And we had this was a killer. The New York Times, the fish wrap of record. Yeah. which ran a piece last week about disillusioned leftist faculty and students at my crazy alma mater, Oberlin College in Ohio. I've just got to read this to you. Michael Parkin, the faculty voice who described the Oberlin trend, placed the change of affection in relationship to the president in an emotional framework. Cue the world's smallest violin. In a conversation after a symposium, he spoke of a love affair that, to a palpable degree, had wound down. Give me a box of Kleenex here. It started hot and heavy, he said. And with extremely idealized notions, then a reality dawned in the way that a once charming laugh becomes an irritating giggle. He's a politician who no longer corresponds to the grand ideas that many students had in their heads about him, and that's deflating and disheartening for them. As I always say, boo freaking who. We now have Pragues across the street who are alarmed at the prospect of a White House run amok, a White House out of control, a White House that doesn't respect the rule of law and the will of the people. If they had read Culture of Corruption 2 years ago, they wouldn't be as dejected and depressed and ready for their meds as they are now. This rule by executive fiat has spread from every section of the public policy agenda of this administration. They've done it with healthcare, of course, and in their trademark transparency, as many of you probably read late last night, the HHS bureaucrats there have decided to drop the Obamacare waiver program. That is thanks to concerted and relentless pressure from grassroots conservative groups, people in this room, groups like Americans for Prosperity, bloggers, talk radio hosts, and finally, thank you, Republican watchdogs in Washington who are doing the job they were sent to do. Of course, the Obamacare architects and the White House flacks are in denial, denial, denial. It's not just a river in Egypt, it's what they serve in the drinking fountains at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And they deny that the purported end of this program has anything to do with the political atmosphere. No. It just happened to come on a late Friday night as questions continue to persist about the murky process, the selectivity, and the legality of the process itself. I warned last night in my latest blog post, because of course that's what we do, blog, all the time, even late at night, here at RightOnline, warned that this is just a temporary evasion of transparency. And what's happened is, while they patted themselves on the back for having these monthly disclosures of the ever-growing Obamacare refugee list, they realized the damage that it was doing. And I think what we're going to see is them go underground and come up with another waiver by another name program. So it requires even more vigilance, not less, to figure out who's getting what, how the cronies are getting rewarded, and how this Obamacare for thee and not for me policy is continuing to play out. I mean, ultimately, repeal is the waiver we all want. Repeal is the ultimate waiver. And the solution to these top-down dictators is not to simply remove their authority and power to selectively enforce the law, but to remove them from power altogether. Obama rule by executive fiat, a culture of contempt, a culture of corruption. Like I said, every policy area is ruled by this kind of authority. We've seen attempts at the Obama administration trying to shove another illegal alien amnesty down our throats through executive fiat, and it is thanks to independent whistleblowers and watchdogs that we know about these secret memos that have been written behind the scenes. The Disclose Act is trying to get shoved down our throats through executive fiat. And of course, as a Coloradan for the last 3 years, Colorado's raised the roof. And for the Rocky Mountain West and all of the West, the Interior Department's culture of corruption and contempt is something that affects all of America, because what happens in the West is a proxy for what they want to do with the rest of the America. Executive fiats to accomplish massive land grabs. I have printed on my website many times, I should just keep it there permanently, an appalling map of how much federal land grabs have been accomplished throughout the West. And it's entire swaths. This is not America. And these land grabs have to stop. Once again, the Republicans, particularly in the House, deserve praise for fighting back. You know, I've spent a lot of time over the last 20 years, and we all do, rightfully so, demanding that capitulationist Republicans in Washington get with the program, stand up for their principles. Well, when they do that, and when they fight back and push back, they deserve our support and praise, and I'm giving it to them now. Because just over the past 2 weeks, an Interior Department loathsome cowboy, Ken Salazar initiative, called the Wildlands Initiative, was rolled back thanks to staunch House Republicans in the West. You know, there's a cliche that we often preach to the choir too much. I think that there's a role and a division of labor among the grassroots conservative movement. And there's a need to praise the choir. And that's why I come to AFP's events. That's why I come to RightOnline and try and interact as much as possible with grassroots activist groups, because you are the reason that I'm able to do what I do. You are, I remember Barbara Boxer singing this on the Senate floor. It was awful. The wind beneath my wings. But it's true.